I've got 8 days to finish these big drawings. Here's something that I do to speed up the drawing process. These are drawings that I finished in 2012, and then 10 years later, I came back to them. I was never really that happy with these drawings at the time. I felt like they looked way too similar to the reference photos that I shot. I didn't think I transformed the image enough. In 2022, I took a utility knife and started scraping them down like crazy. At the time, I had been looking at these sculptures of veiled heads and found them so haunting and ethereal. I took cloth and plastic wrap and wrapped my face in it to create references for these veils. But I only did it to 6 of the portraits. I never picked up and finished the rest of them. I found out about this grant application with just 8 days to go, so I'm scrambling to finish these drawings. Every portrait is going to have a different veil, which is going to be scraped into the portrait. But I don't want to just start scraping. I need to have a plan. Typically, I would do a whole bunch of thumbnail sketches, really work out all of the nuances, but I don't have time for that. Instead, I print out hard copies of the original drawing. This is the one I'm going to scrape into, and I draw right on top of the printout with crayons. It saves so much time because I don't have to draw anything from scratch. In fact, it almost feels a little bit too easy because a good quality version of the drawing is there, and I just go in and I add a couple of sections with the veil and I'm done. I do take some time to match a reference with the drawing because I want to make sure that the veil pattern really matches the gesture of the portrait. I really like the crayon because it really does simulate the type of marks that I would be scraping into the drawings. By doing multiple layers of the black and white crayon on top of each other, I end up with this almost gauzy look, which is exactly matching what I want the portrait to do. To get started with the drawing process, I like to lay down with the white crayon some really structured lines to figure out where the main folds are going to be. I do start out putting quite a bit of pressure with the crayon because I need it to be really solid and visible. Those initial folds really become an anchor for the composition. I need those to be really solid before I start and go in and do some more details. I can make really fast decisions about whether I want to completely remove something entirely, but then it's so fast to lay the black right on top of those white areas if I decide I want to bring it back. If I had to make those kinds of decisions as I was scraping away on the big drawing, that would be so incredibly inefficient. I feel like I'd be doing so much backtracking. These sketches on the printouts, I can make changes so fast because it's on a fairly small scale, and having the option between the black and the white, it just provides so much flexibility in the drawing process. I save the black crayon until I feel like I have a really good map of what I want to do with the folds. But I don't use the black that much. Most of this is in the mindset of scraping away. Therefore, the white crayon is the one that's really dominant in these sketches. When you draw with crayon, you have to be so conscious of the physical pressure that you're exerting onto the drawing. Those initial lines, those have to be really bold. But then as the drawing develops and I start adding more shading and more blending, that's where it's more very, very fast strokes, but I'm not pressing very hard with any of them. And I'm moving the crayon in all different directions to create more fluidity and an organic quality in the veil. A big part of these drawings is showing tension in various parts of the portrait. So there are some areas where the veil feels really tight, very tense, like the person's face is being pressed right up against that veil. But then I have other areas that I really want the line to flow. What struck me so much about those sculptures that I was looking at is that even though they are opaque marble sculptures, they have the feeling of transparency. You feel like you can see that face through the veil, even though it's just one big hunk of marble. Transparency is a big part of these drawings because I have some areas where I really want the veil to feel like it's opaque and it's hiding a lot of the face, and then other areas where you feel like the veil is very easy to see through and everything is visible. That gets achieved in the drawings by various amounts of layering. It's a real back and forth, and you do that for a very long time. And the last pass that's very important is for me to take a look at the composition and ask myself whether I've really retained the large shapes, which are going to rich areas of tone. And a lot of these, I did way too much of the white lines, and that ended up really breaking up the portrait so much that the veil was too dominant. That's where, in a lot of places, that's where I would take my black crayon and do almost like a gray glaze over large areas where I could really tone down some of the white folds. That black glaze really helps bring everything together. Each of these drawings probably took an hour, maybe an hour and a half. They were very fast, and I felt like I could move through so many different types of options for the placement of the veil in a short period of time. I know I'll get it done. I've had so many projects like this in my life where there just is not enough time to really give yourself the leisure of thought, and I know I will get it done, but that doesn't mean it's not stressing me out.